Asset protection. If you right now are someone that doesn't have much money at all, maybe you don't have any assets and you plain just don't own much of anything, you're what they consider judgment proof. And that's not a legal term, but I believe it is jargon for someone who has so little assets that they're basically not worth pursuing, at least not in the court of law. For example, someone like me, who has absolutely no money at all and no assets, so definitely do not try to come after me. Because lawyers are extremely expensive. They're so very expensive. And even if you win a judgment, you still have to deal with collecting. And that's a totally separate beast to deal with. And trust me on that one, because collections, no one has ever been able to collect anything from me. Now, the bottom line here is that with lawyer fees that can sometimes reach thousands or tens of thousands or even more, you also have to include court fees, all sorts of fees. It might actually end up costing more to pursue someone who is quote unquote judgment proof than the amount you'd get back via collections. So really, I'm not worth the effort at all. But in any case, onto the topic of you now. If in the case you've done everything right all your life, and you've worked super hard, you've watched a ton of finance videos, read a ton of finance books, and now you're rich, you've accumulated a ton of wealth and assets, and however you got there, either via careful planning, careful saving, making more money, or from some sort of inheritance from your loving, caring parents, then you've probably spent some time looking into asset protection itself. Or if you haven't, then you might want to start looking into it now. Because I've heard of some horror stories of people who have done all the right things for their entire life up until the time they're about to retire, but then they get into some accident or something that gets them into legal trouble that completely wipes out their entire savings. So while this is not enough time, and in this video I'm not covering comprehensively about asset protection, appearing poor and penniless could actually be a very good initial deterrent for people who otherwise might have tried to sue you. Because how likely are people going to try to sue the bum that's outside McDonald's panhandling and asking for spare change? But that becomes a different story once that same believed homeless person hops in their Mercedes Benz and drives away.
A pregnant woman begging for money with her young son, then driving off in a Mercedes.
In fact, maybe you even remember those stories of people who purposely cut people off on the highway, then they slam their brakes hoping to fake an accident in their favor for that large sum of judgment money. Now, those people aren't doing it to people with lemons or junk cars or 30-year-old cars with fading paint and rust like mine. They're doing it to people in Mercedes Benzes, BMWs, Corvettes, or whatever nice looking luxury car that they see. So remember that if you're an American or somewhere with sue happy people, you really don't want to work super ultra hard all your life just for something to make all of it go away to someone else. So that's number one. Looking poor is a good first deterrent for protecting your own assets. And looking poor doesn't necessarily mean that you have to show up everywhere looking like a bum in tattered clothing or dirty clothing that you haven't washed in weeks. It could just be about looking less flashy, for example, not showing up in a crime-ridden city wearing a Rolex or designer clothing. Number two is about reduced pressure and less stress. So I'm going to carry on that same example I used about driving an old car with a lot of blemishes, nearly completely depreciate value and all that good stuff. So the car that I own is a 1994 Lexus ES300, and it was pretty cheap the first day I got it, but it looked actually pretty perfect with no rust and no faded paint and no dings at all. But exactly that first day that I had it, overnight, someone or something walked by and left a dent on it, and I was completely heartbroken. But now it's so messed up already from having on the street, from age, from just random people doing all sorts of things to the car, I don't even care anymore. So someone smashes their door into mine while I'm away, well, it blends in. Some punk kid or adult throws something at my car and dings it, it blends in. There's a really nice, cool restaurant that my girlfriend and I want to try, but it's in a bad neighborhood. Well, the car blends in. And I live in a large metro area with a bunch of crime and with a ton of bad drivers who drive illegally or without vehicle insurance. Ones that run solid red lights, run from the cops, and frankly are just not good drivers at all. And frankly, the chances of someone hitting and running my parked car while I'm away is actually probably higher than if I lived in a better area. But the car itself is barely worth anything right now. So it hurt a lot less than if I had just bought a new $50,000 SUV or a $100,000 supercar. And this applies to other things that are not car related. So if you're not wildly wealthy, Those designer clothes, if a thread gets caught in the washing machine while it's spinning, that becomes a heartbreak. Those nice new and white Jordans, if someone steps on it and makes it dirty, you're heartbroken, and that might even cause a fight with some people. Fancy new Rolex that gets scratched, again, you're gonna be heartbroken. So overall, it's just a simpler life this way with less frustration and less stress. Now this is my conclusion, but I'm not saying that you have to look flat out broke everywhere you go and every time and all the time. Like, what would your first date think if you showed up looking like a bum on the first date? But also, you don't have to hold on that tightly to those pennies even at the cost of your own happiness. But not looking too flashy in bad situations could actually be pretty beneficial to you. So that's about all I have for this fairly short video. Leave me some comments below if you think of any others, and make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons because that really helps me out. Thanks for watching.